El Radio Phoenix presents World News in 5, hosted by Jack Storm, Monday, August 3rd, 2026. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching or listening around the world. Welcome to World News in 5, exclusively on El Radio Phoenix. I'm Jack Storm. Today, we're covering the biggest stories from the United States, around the world, Latin America and the Caribbean, business, weather, sports, and today's dumbass of the day. Now, let's begin. America Today. The United States begins the week with lawmakers continuing to debate immigration, border security, federal spending, and international policy. Another major focus remains China's growing influence throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. The Trump administration is considering hundreds of millions of dollars in additional investments for cybersecurity, communications infrastructure, and regional partnerships aimed at countering Beijing's influence across the Western Hemisphere. Proposed projects include new undersea telecommunications cables in Central America and the Caribbean, along with expanded security cooperation. Economically, investors are preparing for a busy week filled with corporate earnings reports and important employment data. Markets remain focused on inflation, interest rates, consumer spending, and whether the Federal Reserve could adjust monetary policy later this year. Meanwhile, emergency managers continue urging residents across the Gulf Coast and southeastern United States to review hurricane preparedness plans as August begins, the most active period of the Atlantic hurricane season. World Watch. International leaders continue watching geopolitical tensions in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific. Governments also remain focused on global supply chains, inflation, and energy prices, all of which continue affecting economies around the world. Scientists are also reminding skywatchers that August will feature two major astronomical events: a total solar eclipse on August 12th, visible from parts of Greenland, Iceland, and Spain, and a partial lunar eclipse later this month that will be visible across much of North and South America. Latin America and the Caribbean. Now it's time for our expanded report from across Latin America and the Caribbean. Mexico. Mexican officials continue responding to record amounts of sargassum seaweed along the Caribbean coast. Cleanup crews remain active in Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum as tourism leaders work to keep beaches open during one of the busiest travel seasons of the year. Authorities also continue security operations targeting organized crime while maintaining close trade and border cooperation with the United States. Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Central American governments continue focusing on border security, organized crime, and economic development. The United States is also reviewing expanded regional partnerships involving infrastructure, cybersecurity, and communications networks across Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and neighboring countries. Belize continues reporting a strong tourism season while government officials monitor hurricane preparedness and environmental protection efforts along the country's Caribbean coastline. Nicaragua continues emphasizing infrastructure and agricultural development while international observers remain focused on governance and civil liberties. Costa Rica continues promoting ecotourism while expanding renewable energy projects and environmental conservation initiatives that remain among the strongest in Latin America. Panama. Traffic through the Panama Canal remains a critical part of world trade. Officials continue monitoring global shipping patterns as geopolitical tensions and changing weather conditions influence international commerce. Cuba continues facing electricity shortages, fuel supply challenges, and inflation. Rolling blackouts continue affecting homes and businesses throughout the island while authorities work to stabilize the national electrical system. Dominican Republic tourism remains one of the Dominican Republic's strongest economic drivers. Government agencies are also increasing hurricane preparedness efforts as meteorologists closely monitor tropical activity across the Atlantic. Puerto Rico continues strengthening emergency preparedness as officials encourage residents to review evacuation plans and emergency supply kits before the busiest part of hurricane season. Haiti remains one of the region's biggest humanitarian concerns. Preparations continue for national elections scheduled later this month, while international organizations continue providing humanitarian assistance and supporting security efforts. Jamaica. Tourism remains strong across Jamaica, while government officials continue crime reduction initiatives and infrastructure improvements. Bahamas. The Bahamas continues welcoming strong numbers of cruise visitors, while emergency officials prepare for possible tropical systems later this summer. Trinidad and Tobago. Energy exports remain the backbone of Trinidad and Tobago's economy as officials monitor global oil and natural gas markets. Colombia. Colombia continues preparing for next year's elections while economic development and security remain major national priorities. Venezuela remains politically divided ahead of U.S.-brokered talks aimed at organizing future presidential elections. Key issues include electoral reforms, political prisoners, and international sanctions, though both government supporters and opposition leaders remain divided over the negotiations. Guyana continues to be one of the world's fastest-growing economies thanks to offshore oil production. Government leaders say energy revenues are helping fund roads, schools, healthcare, and housing projects. Suriname continues pursuing new investment opportunities in mining, energy, and transportation while working to strengthen public finances. Ecuador, security remains a top priority as Ecuador continues increasing police and military operations against organized crime and drug trafficking. Peru's newly inaugurated president Keiko Fujimori continues assembling her administration while outlining priorities that include economic growth, public safety, and stronger regional cooperation. Peru has also indicated it plans to join the Shield of the Americas coalition promoted by the United States. Bolivia, economic reforms, inflation, and regional trade remain major political issues as Bolivia continues balancing growth with social programs. Chile continues emphasizing renewable energy investments while monitoring winter weather affecting southern portions of the country. Argentina. Relations between Argentina and Brazil remain strained following recent political exchanges between leaders of both countries, though economic cooperation within Mercosur continues. Uruguay continues reporting stable economic growth and remains one of South America's leaders in renewable energy and digital government services. Paraguay continues expanding agricultural exports while seeking new international trade opportunities. Brazil's presidential campaign officially entered a new phase today as President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva launched his re-election campaign. The campaign is expected to focus heavily on economic growth, national sovereignty, tax reform, and foreign influence. Senator Flavio Bolsonaro remains Lula's principal challenger, setting the stage for one of Brazil's most closely watched elections in recent history. Money and markets. Markets begin the week watching employment reports, inflation data, and corporate earnings. Oil prices remain sensitive to geopolitical developments, while investors continue monitoring central bank policies worldwide. Weather Watch. Forecasters continue monitoring tropical conditions across the Atlantic. Although no major hurricanes are threatening land today, August historically marks the beginning of the most active part of the hurricane season. Residents throughout Florida, the Gulf Coast, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean are encouraged to remain prepared. Sports World. Major League Baseball continues its regular season with teams battling for playoff positioning. Football clubs across Europe continue preseason training while fans throughout North America look ahead to the start of the NFL season. Dumbass of the Day. Today's Dumbass of the Day goes to the tourist who ignored multiple warning signs, climbed over a safety barrier for the perfect selfie, only to discover the fence was there because of a steep drop. Thankfully, bystanders called for help before anyone was seriously injured. Today's lesson: if there are warning signs, they're usually written because somebody already learned the hard way. Congratulations, you're today's Dumbass of the Day. Those are today's top stories. I'm Jack Storm. Thank you for joining us for World News in 5 on El Radio Phoenix. If you enjoyed today's broadcast, like this video, leave a comment, share it with your family and friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily news, music, our joke of the day, and more, streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and remember, the facts still matter.